Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Tactical Talk with Mad Dog Armory. I am your host, Jillian, and my
partner in crime. I'm Shad.
Partner in crime, Shad.
Yep.
Welcome to the show. We are here every Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. You can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, all the social media platforms.
Yep.
WeBeam TV is gracious enough to host us, so you can find us there as well. Shad and I are the owners of Mad Dog Armory. We are very proud of our shops. We have two now, retail stores, one in Tampa, South Tampa, Florida,
Yep.
and one in Largo. We are retail gun shops and training centers. And we were very excited to be able to do this show for our viewers and listeners. Listeners, some people just listen, I think, maybe.
Watch. Don't just listen, watch.
Okay. Well, watch and listen. So we're very excited that we have this platform to talk about firearms, the gun industry. We bring you new products and services and all different gun industry stuff.
Yep.
So we are very happy to have this platform because, especially with today's show that we'll talk about shortly, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of stigmas about guns and things like that. So we are very happy to have this platform. So please go to our social media and like and subscribe.
Share. Do a lot of sharing. Honestly, we really need to get this out.
There's episode 3.
Was it episode 3? Yeah. Anyway, we're a little past episode 3.
We're at 16 today.
Holy shnikes.
I think, right?
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16, yeah. So this is our 16th episode. So please go back and watch the previous shows.
Just don't look at episode 1.
Episode 1, I rewatched it a little bit.
It's really bad.
It's not as bad as I thought.
No, it's really bad.
I mean, it was okay. I mean, for what we knew at the time, it wasn't bad at all. But
we knew -3. That's what we knew when we walked in and did that show.
Yeah, kind of just walked in and they were like, here you go, mic'd up, go. You know, we were like, what? But we are very passionate about gun rights and the Second Amendment. So it's gotten easier because we're talking about things we're passionate about.
Sure.
So it does make it kind of easy because in the beginning we were like, what are we going to talk about for an hour? How can we talk about this for an hour? And here we go. Last week's show was about cleaning, and we're like, how are we going to talk about cleaning for an hour? And we actually ran out of time.
Right.
So it's working out. Yeah. So we're glad that you're joining us. We appreciate you watching.
Yep.
Like I said, very important for you to like and share and subscribe. Share these posts and videos with the public. It's very important.
This episode really, we're going to talk a little bit about last night's speech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, we're going to cover that for sure. So tonight's episode is going to be on the NRA, the National Rifle Association, how important that is.
Yep.
Some NFA information, the National Firearms Act information, raising the age of long gun purchases, which was talked about last night and in the media for the last couple of weeks. Weapons of war, that keeps being thrown out there. That's really frustrating for people in the gun industry because
weapons of war and assault rifles.
Assault weapons was mentioned a lot last night, and our show actually changed from earlier in the week to what it is now because of Biden's address and a couple other media things that are going on that we're getting frustrated with, and I'm sure a lot of other responsible gun owners are getting very frustrated. Patriots and Second Amendment supporters are all up in arms about what's going on. So we wanted to touch on a lot of important information. We're going to talk about 4 items that were discussed in that press conference last night, so we can clarify a lot of things that was a lot of not necessarily misinformation, but just the way it's told is wrong.
Misguided, maybe?
Misguided, just
misleading.
Misleading, yes, very good. So we are going to talk about that today. So it's very important stuff.
We also have our raffle. Ooh.
Yes, we are.
So stay tuned. That's going to be at the end of the show.
Correct.
So no fast forward and all that kind of crap. So watch the whole thing.
Yeah, we are going to do our drawing for the gun that's behind me here. The Black Rain Ordnance, AR-15.
Bro 15.
Bro 15 is the model. It's an OD green. It's a really nice rifle. It's really nice. The value is what, 1,500 to
1,600, I think, something like that.
1,600. So one lucky person is going to win that raffle today. So we are going to do the drawing live right here. So stay tuned. And we're very excited about that. Thank you for everybody that
participated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So a little bit about Mad Dog Armory. Kind of skipped over it a little bit, but our 2 locations have our staff who we've trained, friendly and knowledgeable staff. We opened Mad Dog Armory because, like I said, we are very passionate about your Second Amendment rights, and we're very, very passionate about education and educating the community on
training, and training.
Legally owning, storing, everything, using, cleaning, just
you name it.
Everything that responsible gun owners should be doing, and then also following the rules and regulations that are put in place for that safe storage, for having responsible gun owners be the ones that are owning guns and different things. So we're going to touch on all that today, but I wanted to go back to our shops because we are local to the Tampa Bay area. We hopefully soon will have a couple in South Carolina, maybe.
Good old South Kakalaki.
So we are franchising. So we're franchising our business model, so you can own your own Mad Dog Armory if you'd like. We also have some interest in the Sarasota area. Ohio, I think, was one we just recently had. So if you're interested in spreading our mission.
The word. Yeah, spreading our word and the word.
Yeah, having a turnkey solution to owning your own gun shop and training center. We would love to help you with that. So just reach out, and we'd love to have Mad Dogs all over the place so we can encourage safe, responsible gun ownership.
You can either reach us on that at tacticaltalk@mdarmory.com or franchising
at
mdarmory.com.
Yep. But reach out if you're interested, and we can get you some information. All right, so last weekend was Memorial Day weekend, so hopefully everybody had a great time. We were able to take some time off and do a little bit of boating, so that was really exciting. We had some family and friends that joined us, so that was very nice. So I hope everybody enjoyed the holiday, and then also remembering what it's about, and that's our men and women in the armed forces that have given up their lives to protect us and to protect our Constitution and
our Second
our
Amendment rights.
And how important.
Actually, all of them. I mean, the reality is if you can attack the Second Amendment, you can attack every other amendment.
Correct.
So just keep in mind that if somebody wants to change, remove, or replace, they can do it on all of them.
Correct. Yes, very important. So we are very honored to have celebrated that.
Yeah.
For sure. So, all right, let's talk guns. So I say it every week, our Second Amendment is under attack.
Literally.
Now more than ever.
Yeah.
If you were ever thinking about owning an AR-15, get it. Let's just say that now.
Yeah.
Legislation was passed, in the Clinton era, right? That they banned AR-15s.
So assault weapons. So they did AR-15s, they did AK-47s, and other similar guns. So I don't have the assault weapons. Right.
Assault weapons, right? Yeah.
Weapons of war, whatever.
Right.
So they did do the ban.
Okay, thanks.
So they did do the ban,
Right.
and then it lapsed. The Bush administration let it lapse. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you are interested in something like that, definitely do it now. Not saying it's going to pass, but the way it's going in the media and the way it's looking, they're really pushing hard for that. So when people come into the shop and they're like, well, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about a handgun, I'm thinking about that, I'm like, do the rifle now, just in case.
Well, it's scary because ultimately they talk about weapons of war, and a weapon of war can be, all sorts of shit's been used during wartime. So anything can technically be considered a weapon of war.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go through that in a second. So that was my first tip of the day, is to get a rifle while you can.
If they tell you you don't need one, you need two.
Yeah, baby, nailed
All right, so let's talk NRA, because this is something that's really important for our viewers, listeners, and listening. So the NRA is the National Rifle Association. You must join this organization. Everybody should
whether
be a
you
member.
like them or not. Right. Whether I'm just saying at this point,
they get a bad rap.
They get a bad rap. You know, and it may not be the best organization ever, whatever. Right. But the reality is, they are fighting for our Second Amendment rights.
Correct.
Period.
Right.
So we need to help fund them so that they're able to do that, because this is getting crazy.
Correct. Yes. So the NRA, if you don't know, is the National Rifle Association. They were founded in 1871. Every day, the NRA fights for our rights, our Second Amendment rights, against politicians, judges, bureaucrats who want to regulate, restrict, and ultimately destroy our Second Amendment freedom.
Yep.
So it is very, very important for you to join this organization and support them financially, because it is not cheap to take on politicians and the government, which is why the Second Amendment was created in the first place, to protect citizens from a tyrannical government. So although people want to spin it to this and that and the other thing, that's ultimately what the Second Amendment is about. And the NRA does fight for you. And basically...
And they do a hell of a job, too.
Yeah, and thank you, Rob, for putting that up there, because basically the website says, you know, I pulled a couple of things, but the NRA is you. So if you're a gun advocate, if you are a gun enthusiast, if you own firearms, and you share in our belief of the Second Amendment, you are the NRA. So you need to support them.
Absolutely.
So if you're considering that joining, do it.
Yes.
And since 1871, the NRA has grown into all sorts of aspects of protecting our rights, including the Bill of Rights. And we're proud of our protectors of the history, advocating for our right to keep and bear arms, and advancing the shooting sports and gun safety education and training. So they're very passionate about that, too.
Very much so.
Yeah. And we talk about the USCCA, which is another company that is a good organization to join, but for as far as lobbying and fighting in court and fighting the politicians, really the NRA is the way to go.
They're the head of the spear, and there's definitely some other organizations that do it, but they are definitely the head of the spear in this particular situation.
Absolutely. So we are asking everybody that's watching to please go onto that website and join.
I say head of the spear. How about tip of the spear?
Tip of the spear.
Just the tip.
Tip of the day.
Just the tip, but nonetheless, they're the tip.
They're the tip. Yep. So join now, and that's it. Join now. Okay. They do have year memberships. I mean, I think it's like $40 or something.
They do annual. They do 3-year, 5-year, and then they do a lifetime.
Right.
They do lifetime membership where you donate a little bit, and you actually get a little bit of stuff back.
Yeah, absolutely.
In regards to all their little memberships, they usually give out some gifts or
yeah, you get a year subscription to a magazine. I love the magazines that we get from all the different subscriptions.
4 different choices as far as magazines you're able to choose from, depending on what your likes and dislikes and stuff are. And yeah, Rob's throwing some stuff up there as far as some of the stuff you might get if you sign up.
Yep.
So yeah.
And then in addition to your membership, you can also give a donation. So I mean, the amount of money we spend on different things, you know, what's $50 or $20 extra or
absolutely, for like a year.
Right.
I mean, really, especially knowing that what they're doing. It'll help out exponentially.
Super important stuff to do. All right, so everybody's going to do that. So we got that down.
All right, so we got 5 memberships.
We got
all
5 people.
We've grown to 5. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for watching. All right, so we got that straight. So again, the reason for today's show, it changed a little bit. We were going to talk about something other than what we're talking about today. We don't want you just to hear the bad news all the time about guns. And that seems to be the media's MO and the politicians.
It's their agenda, for sure.
Their agenda. Yeah. And maybe more attention needs to be given to the positives of responsible firearm ownership and usage. So that's what today's show is about. We're going to go over some positives, you know, some people that used firearms to defend themselves against attacks and different things and protected citizens and saved a lot of lives. Whatever. Yeah, there have been a lot of people that have been saved because there was responsible gun owners that had guns. So taking them away is really going to be a disservice to the communities all over.
Yeah, agreed.
But what I wanted to touch on, what we wanted to touch on first is what happened yesterday, last night, actually. Shad and I went and saw that new movie.
Maverick.
So, and there was somebody, who was it, the girl at the counter? I can't remember. Somebody was talking about that she was too young for the first movie. And I was like, what? You haven't seen Top Gun? Like,
Right.
how old am I that you haven't seen the original, right?
Well,
I mean, what a good movie.
in 86. I'm pretty sure it's 1986 is when it was released. So, I mean, it has been a smidge.
I guess it's been a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, we saw the second movie, or Maverick,
Yeah.
and that was really good.
Really good.
So I would say go see it. That was very cool.
Even if you haven't seen the first one, for you younger folk,
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah, 'cause
really
you didn't-
it was very entertaining.
They went back and showed a few things
Little
just to
flashbacks,
let you
sure.
understand kind of what happened, but you don't have to have seen the first one, I don't think. Yeah, no, it was a really good movie. So it was kind of cool date night last night.
Yep.
But while we were at the movies, there was this thing on from Biden, and it was very disturbing. We listened to it kind of on the way home,
Yep.
and we were very upset about it.
Yeah.
And we don't like that he's using this tragedy that happened recently to push the agenda. And I feel like some of the things that he was saying were untrue and absolutely out of context.
Right. Untrue or at least misleading.
Misleading
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So one of the things, number one on our list of things that we're going to talk about that he said yesterday is that Americans want stricter gun laws. He blatantly said it multiple times. He insinuating that all Americans,
American.
if not most
I don't.
Americans, want stricter gun laws.
Right.
And according to BBC News, only 52% of Americans surveyed said they want stricter gun laws, while 35% said they should remain this. Oh, sorry, I flipped those. 35% of Americans said they wanted. Wait, hold on, I'm messing this up. 52% of Americans surveyed said they wanted stricter gun laws, but 35 said. Am I opposite? Am I opposite day?
It looks like it.
Okay. So 52% of Americans surveyed said that they want stricter gun laws, while 35% said they should remain the same. I don't believe it.
I don't
honestly.
believe it either.
It's
Well, again,
not true.
who are they polling? I mean, that's just it. I
And
mean,
BBC
depending on
News-
who you poll,
Right.
you can get all sorts of skewed numbers. How many
Right.
people did they poll? Did they
Correct.
poll
Who did
100
they-
people?
Did they
Right.
do just Democrats and, so.
Yeah, and I mean, where did they get the pool from? But nonetheless,
Correct.
I mean, reality is it's
I mean, there's hundreds of millions of people that own
Correct.
firearms.
Yes.
They don't want stricter gun laws.
Right.
What they do want is to stop seeing these tragedies happen, right?
Absolutely.
And everybody can agree on that, right?
Yes.
So they want these mass shootings, which we're
Correct.
going to go over what that is,
Right.
and why they keep saying mass shootings, because they're not mass shootings, they're actually
Right.
active shooters,
Right.
to stop, and we all agree on that.
Absolutely.
It even goes back to the whole George Foreman thing too, to be quite honest, because it pinned people.
George Floyd.
Floyd?
Yeah.
Foreman is the
You want a grill? Go check out George Foreman.
Floyd.
You get a grill.
Floyd.
But let's talk about George Floyd.
Yeah.
But it goes back to George Floyd.
Right,
Yeah.
that they pin two people, people against each other, where
Sure.
we all, I think every single American really felt that that was horrible,
Absolutely.
right? And it was like they pinned, oh, well, you don't believe, and then it was this whole divisive thing.
Correct.
Which Biden ran on, that he was not going to divide the country, and he has divided the country on every single thing that he's touched. And it's more divisive than ever, and it's horrible because I think for the most part, Americans just want to be free. They want to live their lives. They don't
right.
want to be told what they can and can't do when they're law-abiding citizens. We want criminals
Right.
to be punished. We want all of the same things, right? I mean, freedom of speech, freedom of
We don't want to pay $5 for gasoline?
$5 for gasoline. It's horrible,
Just saying.
right?
Right.
All right, so good guys with guns. Basically, almost all national survey estimates indicated that defensive gun uses by victims are at least as common as offenses used by criminals. So it's equal.
Right.
But you
alls
don't
we
hear
No.
about it in the news,
Absolutely.
right?
All we ever hear about is somebody that got shot, why they got shot, and it was always, bad guy doing blah, 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 whatever. You never hear about good guy defending family, friends, or even people they don't even know.
Right.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
So annual uses of defensive shootings and saving people and saving lives
Okay.
range from 500,000 to more than 3 million.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So you don't
Crazy.
hear about those. I mean,
No.
I don't think I have ever, maybe once, I should say,
Very seldom.
heard on the news about a good, person that used their guns
Good
to
Samaritan.
defend,
Yeah.
something from happening, a bad thing from happening.
If it is, it's the last thing they talk about. if they talk about it.
Correct.
Okay.
And the CDC found that the defensive use of a gun by a victim is actually a fairly common occurrence. And it's more common than people even know.
Right.
So do your research, and definitely go through the good stories and learn about, how the media just focuses on the bad stories.
Yep.
Okay. Number two thing that upset us, and I just kind of touched on it, is that whole mass shooting. So a lot of I can't even count how many times he said mass shooting, weapons of war, things that are just infuriating.
Right. Yeah.
But mass shooting, so let's talk about mass shooting versus active shooter. So the country does not have a single definition for mass shootings. I couldn't find one. Right?
It seems like in the past several years or whatever, it seemed like when they were talking about mass shooting stuff, they were talking about 2 or 3 or more people that were shot, not necessarily died, but were shot. So I think that's kind of their criteria, which is very, very, very small.
Right.
The reality is, if you think about it, if there's a murder-suicide and 2 people are involved, that's considered a mass shooting.
Right.
What the hell?
Yeah, this is like, this information I got from the FBI, right?
Yeah.
So an active shooter, they tracked over a decade active shooter incidents.
Right, and they call it active shooter,
Correct.
which is exactly the stuff that we're really talking about
Right.
here. I mean
It's when
realistically.
an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. That is an active shooter incident.
And
right?
I agree. And when I think of a mass shooting, that's what I think about.
Right.
I think about that kind of situation. So this is where stuff kind of gets skewed.
It's the verbiage.
Right, and you can kind of get numbers, right? You can make numbers do anything. I mean, that's reality.
Sure,
You know. So, but this information from the FBI, good. So let's hear what they got to say.
According to the FBI, there were 345 active shooter incidents in the United States between 2000 and 2020. So it's 20 years, resulting in 1,024 deaths. So in 20 years,
Right.
there were 1,024
deaths.
deaths in active shooter incidents. Now that is an accurate account. Now 1,000 people is a lot of people, but it's 20 years.
Sure.
So when people say there were 250 mass shootings in 2022.
Last month.
Last month.
No,
I'm
I know.
how
I'm
is
like,
that
what
even
the fuck?
possible? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's because they're classifying mass shootings.
Again, by
not
that
correctly.
whole 2 people or more getting shot.
Correct. So a husband can shoot his wife and then shoot himself,
And it's a mass shooting.
Right.
Right.
So ultimately, you have to make sure that you're really being educated on what is actually going on.
Correct.
And the FBI has it right with tracking active shooter
shooters.
incidents and
Correct.
not mass shootings, because there is technically no definition for that.
Because God knows how
ultimately.
many mass shootings are happening in Chicago on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh, gangs and all different,
And very, very strict gun laws there for some reason.
Yeah, the numbers in Chicago are ridiculous. Yeah. for
New
sure.
York, LA. So albeit those are, extremely highly populated areas, so you obviously are going to have more opportunities, but still those are all states that are very highly regulated gun restrictions.
Right.
Whether it's magazine capacities or whatever.
Yep.
So you have these places that don't allow a bunch of stuff, which is what they're attempting to do, yet there's more crime happening there than other places.
Because criminals don't
Wait,
follow
what?
the rules.
Oh my goodness.
They don't follow the rules,
And I'm
people.
pretty sure that's why they're criminals.
Right. Correct.
Yep.
The third thing we didn't like, what he said, is that mass shootings or guns are the #1 killer of children. So this
Right.
is really misleading stuff. And I was very, very upset about that. And then as I'm doing research and I'm Googling it, what's coming up is that it's true.
Right.
But when you look at the actual statistics of it,
Right.
the data from CDC shows 4,300 young Americans died from firearm-related injuries.
Okay. What else?
While suicides contribute to the toll, the data shows that homicides form the majority of gun-related deaths. So they're talking about suicides,
Correct.
19 and under.
So
So-
why would you select 19? Because last time I checked, 19 is not considered a child. As a matter of fact, 18 is not considered a child.
Yeah,
18
same children.
technically is considered an adult.
Right.
So shouldn't it have been 17 or under?
I mean, you would think, because if you can be in the military and defend our country at
Right.
18, I don't consider them children.
Right.
So saying that children
Right.
I mean,
Well, and
does
again,
that include people that are in the military that are
Right.
18 years old that fight for
18
our
or
country
19
and die
died, right.
of a gunshot wound? Then
And did they have to choose that number? Did they have to choose 19 in order to reach the number that they needed in order to pass? What was the next one? Was it?
car crashes.
It was car crashes. And then overdoses.
Correct. Drugs. Yeah.
So they had to select a particular number in order to get to that.
Correct.
So I'm assuming, and now again, I'm curious to see what the numbers are if you included the 18 and 17 and kind of get those so we can actually see what the differences are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was very disturbing to hear him say
Yeah.
that. And I'm sure there were a lot of Americans that are not informed. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because it's,
Right.
you know, when you hear something like that, you're like, oh my gosh, is that actually true? That's horrible.
Absolutely.
You got to also think about the guns that are not safely stored.
Correct.
So we were talking about the Sandy Hook thing that happened that was horrible, and how did that kid who was mentally ill, how did he get his hands on these guns, right?
I remember it being in a safe, and I was thinking that maybe he made her open the safe,
Right.
or maybe he had the combination of the safe. I don't know. I can't remember, but I do know that they were locked up and they were in a safe.
And that is currently on the books in law, like literally
For Florida.
In Florida. I mean, when we teach, you know, our classes and
Yeah.
when we talk to people, we tell them it is your responsibility to safely store your firearms.
That's correct.
Period. You are held responsible if something happens. And I even tell them, not just minors, untrained people, if
Correct.
somebody has an accident, felons, anybody that has access to your guns
Right.
that are not supposed to have access to your guns, and something happens, you are held responsible. Period.
And here's the problem, though. So if somebody breaks into your home and steals your firearms, they're breaking the law.
Correct. Right.
So again, so should you be held responsible by somebody breaking the law in order to
You're
getting
not.
them?
That's
well, I get
waived
it,
in
but then
Florida.
they're going to turn around and say, yeah, but you didn't have it securely encased.
Right.
You didn't have it secured. You didn't have, and this is kind of gets into, I'm not sure if you're going to bring up, again, I have no idea what's going on in the show. She starts, and I just start spouting shit off.
Yeah.
So they were also talking about liability, and they want to change the liability for gun manufacturers so they can be sued if their gun is used to kill somebody.
It's horrible.
And it just boggles my mind, because if that's the case, then why don't you do the same thing for alcohol
Cars.
and cars?
Yeah.
Because if somebody's drunk driving, then the alcohol
And they're in a
manufacturer
Ford. Yeah.
and the car manufacturer should be able to be held liable as
And
well.
that's ridiculous. They shouldn't be held
insane.
liable. It is not the car's fault that the person, you know, it's not the alcohol's fault.
The gun is not made to go out and kill people. And I
Right.
realize people go, well, yeah, that's what they were made. Well, no, they weren't actually made for that. They were actually made to hunt.
Right.
I mean, that's truly what, now people started using them for other purposes.
Right.
But again, I realize the gun is the tool, but it's a tool.
Yeah, we have to start holding people accountable for their actions.
That's right.
And the way that this administration is going, they're lightening up on crime. They're doing this cashless bail.
Right. What the
They're not
fuck?
even having police respond to different things that are happening, like theft. I mean, I watched
They're
something.
like crimes on the rise. Well, fuck, I wonder why.
I mean, we have to hold people responsible. That is what's happening. We have a problem in our society where people are not being held accountable.
That's right.
They immediately start blaming everybody else, all this other stuff, and it has nothing to do with that other stuff. There's millions and millions of guns out there, and only 1,024 deaths in 20 years.
For active shooters.
For active shooters. I mean, come on. This is not rocket science here, people.
Right.
It is not the gun. There's so many responsible gun owners, and it has nothing
And
to do with
people
the
want to
gun.
totally bash the situation of, oh, that's the thing you always go to, but it's reality.
It's true.
So, and I know she doesn't want me to do this one, do it anyway. So, when 9/11 occurred, everybody wanted to vilify every Muslim. Did we vilify every Muslim? No. Why? Because it was just some few morons that were doing it.
Right.
So why would you vilify every gun owner for what these morons are doing?
Right.
They're absolute, just insane people doing insane things.
Correct. We got to hold people accountable, and that's what it is.
That's right.
The lunatics that are doing these bad things, they're not as common as the media is trying to make you think, and they just publicize it so much.
They do.
All right, so we also want to talk about the border crisis, okay? Because in doing the research, and it was saying, you know, and we're talking about, you know, deaths and what are the leading causes of deaths in
Right.
children and, you know, 19 and under and all this stuff.
Well, and just in general, right?
And just
we
in
were
general.
curious to know what is the leading cause of death in the U.S. for Americans.
Sure.
Right?
Drug overdoses are huge.
What?
And as far as drug overdoses go, it's very, very disturbing about the border because
Correct.
what's happening at our border is nearly over 1 million encounters have happened in 2022 of illegals coming in. And I know people don't like to say illegals, but they're illegally, and again, this comes down to crime. And if you do a crime, you have to be held accountable. Okay.
Right.
So these people are committing crimes. They're coming into our country illegally. That's a crime. Okay. Bottom line.
But it's okay. Hey, we'll even give you a cell phone. Come on in.
Biden illegal migrant releases. All right. So the number of illegal migrants, they call them migrants, illegal immigrants, the Biden administration has released into the United States is greater than the population of Seattle or Denver. Greater than the population of Seattle or Denver. Over 780,000, 760,000.
Yeah, I think the number that have been allowed in is 836,000
illegal immigrants.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the kicker to that, and where the drugs tie in, is the U.S. Border Patrol Chief, Raul Ortiz, said on May 27th that he seized 131 pounds of fentanyl.
This was on the 27th, he reported a 3-day total. This is over 3 days, and he just did it on the 27th, so this is less than a week old.
Ago. Right. Yep. They seized 131 pounds of fentanyl.
Wow.
26 pounds of heroin, 13 pounds of meth, they had to do 22 water rescues.
Wow.
They had 18 large groups of illegals crossing, totaling 2,446 people in 3 days. They arrested, or they came across 10 sex offenders, 3 gang members, 1 assassination suspect, 1 fugitive wanted for murder, and 3 agents were assaulted in 3 days.
Well, and that's just what they seized and what they caught.
Correct.
What did they not catch and what did they not seize?
Right. Because there's so many times where you see the video of people crossing and there's nobody around because there's no wall.
Right. That was there and already paid for and already funded, and it's just sitting there. It just needs to be put in.
Right.
Wow.
So incidents of drug overdoses and poisonings rose 83% between 2019 and 2020. So this is a huge problem that we're having.
Wow.
We need to address.
Yeah.
954 young people died of overdoses in 2020. 954 young people died of overdoses in 2020. So think about that.
Yeah. And what do they consider young people? Do we know? Was there an age on that at all, or just young people?
No, it just says young people.
Right. So again, what's that age group? I don't know. And who knows? It could be up to 21. Who knows? I don't know. But still, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So think about it. 954 people died in just 2020 alone over drug overdoses. But when we go to the active shooter, 1,000
over 20
years.
Right.
Think about those numbers. Isn't that insane that people don't go? Well, maybe the problem, we should focus on really is drug overdoses, right?
Well, hold on. Aren't drugs illegal?
Right.
Just saying.
And a big culprit for the overdoses is this fentanyl, right? And
really bad.
Mexican drug cartels are mixing this powerful, highly addictive opioid in much to the illegal street drugs that are out there. Heroin, fake opioid pain pills, cocaine, all these street drugs that are, good point.
Wait. Illegal. Yeah, illegal.
Illegal drugs, right?
The CDC, I wonder if Biden's getting a kickback for letting all the drug cartel just walk through and bring stuff in.
I'm also trying to figure out why he's visiting, all of these. He's too busy to go to the border, right?
Yeah.
So it's been two years he's been in office?
Year and a half.
Okay, so it's been that long. He's too busy to go to the border, which is right in Texas. It's not that far. But he's been all over the country.
Yeah, he goes
visiting, the sites of these active shooter situations and things like that. He's gone all overseas, all over the place.
Yep.
But he can't find one day or a half a day or an hour out of his schedule to go to the border and see what is happening.
He wants to send the hyena, but she really doesn't go either.
She's so horrible. She really is horrible. All right. The CDC data shows that the South is seeing drug deaths rise 25 to 30%. Also, the state of Kansas, where this particular person was reporting, saw a 42% increase of fatal overdoses in the last year. 42%. So we need to do something about the drug deaths, and we need to start focusing on other things other than, the media pushing you towards deflecting to something else.
Right. And technically, I guess right now we're considered the media.
Sure. Yeah.
Spread the word.
All right, the fourth thing we didn't like, and I mentioned it earlier, was weapons of war.
Yes.
Okay, they keep talking about weapons of war and these weapons of war and assault weapons and all this stuff. It's very, very upsetting because I own a lot of firearms and what are you doing? Weapon of war? I already
just
have a
assaulted
bruise.
her. That is now an assault pen.
Please stop calling AR-15s weapons of war. Please.
And assault rifles. AR does not stand for assault rifle, and I know
Yes.
most of the people watching this already know that, but please.
Correct.
We don't call them assault rifles. Call them modern sporting rifles
Right.
or AR-15, but, it's insane.
Weapons of war needs to be, please stop saying that. So the point remains, no soldier today would want to go into battle with an AR-15.
Correct.
A civilian AR-15, right? When given the opportunity to use true military firearms, weapons of war, which are the M4 carbine or an M249 machine gun,
Correct.
Select fire, full auto.
Correct. Well, and that's what select fire means. Select fire means that you have the option of either doing full automatic, which what does that mean? That means that you pull the trigger, you hold the trigger down, and it keeps giving you bullets out of the front of it until you release the trigger.
Correct.
That's full auto.
Correct.
You can do select fire, and that can get you into one of two different phases, depending on the manufacturer, what they're looking for. It can either be bursts, so maybe it's a 3-round burst, or single fire.
Correct. Right.
And then safe.
Correct.
Yep.
So what is the definition of weapons of war, right? So went to Wikipedia, Google, any item of equipment supplied by states or armed groups to their armed forces or members so that in an armed conflict they can take violent action against the enemy and whose use within the limits justified by military necessity and the rules of international humanitarian law is legitimate in a time of war.
Right. So.
9mm?
Yeah.
I mean, he's talking about
absolutely.
that being a weapon of war.
Yeah. So this is where it really gets interesting. So he does bring up a lot in his speeches, whether it was the one last night or previous speeches. He does talk about the Second Amendment, and when the Second Amendment was created, it was not created because at that point there were limitations.
Right, it's not absolute, he keeps saying.
He says it's not absolute, and there were limitations. He said that you couldn't have bought a cannon when the Second Amendment was created. And that is actually an inaccurate statement, because there was never any kind of definition on what you could and could not buy. It came down to a monetary fact. So monetarily, it was very, very, very expensive in order to buy a cannon. So you probably were unable to buy a cannon due to monetary reasons. So there really wasn't any kind of legislation in the U.S. regarding what you could and could not purchase until 1934.
Correct.
So Joe Dumbass.
Oh, Jesus.
Get your fucking facts straight.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so thank you for your segue into the NFA, which is the National Firearms Act, which was created in 1934, like Shad just said. And firearms subject to the 1934 Act included shotguns, rifles, having barrels less than 18 inches in length, certain firearms described as any other weapons like machine guns, firearm mufflers, or silencers, right? So they enacted this NFA, National Firearms Act, to regulate who can have a full auto silencer, a short barrel rifle, or a short barrel shotgun.
Right. And why this stuff occurred was in that time period, I believe that's when Elliot Ness had created the FBI, right? Didn't he? Well, he was the head of the FBI, I guess, I think. Was it Elliot Ness? Anyway, the FBI had just been created.
Right.
And they were really losing battles to whether it was Bonnie and Clyde, whether it was
St.
the
Valentine's
Chicago
Day massacre.
Right. I mean, you had all these people that were using Tommy guns, full auto BARs, all these guns that were full autos, and it wasn't going well for them. So they wanted to make sure that that didn't happen anymore. So they enacted this particular act, NFA item. it was also prohibition. So why silencers got put on was because during prohibition, they didn't want people to come out and shoot livestock and take their livestock because of prohibition and the Great Depression and all that was happening. So the problem is these have never been removed. So the problem is once you give an inch, they take a mile, and once something goes away, it never comes back.
Right.
So this is where we have to be very, very diligent and thoughtful and mindful about what we end up giving up. Because they want us to do stuff, and we know that that's not what's going to fix the issue because it's already enacted in other states, and it has not fixed the issue.
Correct.
So they want to do this stuff, and then it doesn't work.
It's not going to work.
And then it never gets repealed.
Correct.
So what the hell?
Right. So who can buy a full auto, right? So there is the NFA Act, so you have to pay a $200 tax stamp, and you can't take possession of the item until you pass a very stringent background check.
That's correct. And it's actually done, the background check is done by the FBI.
Correct.
On behalf of the ATF.
Correct. And I did bring up two that are for sale right now that are available to the public.
Yep. Gunbroker.
And on Gunbroker, right? So here's an online sales, whatever, online store. And the first one is the Colt. The Colt 1921, it's a 45,
it's
full
gun.
Auto, Tommy gun.
There you go.
The price tag on it?
$65,000.
Okay.
And again, full auto, here's the thing. So you have, I believe it's 230,000 serialized items that are full autos that can be sold and transferred between civilians. That number is never going to get added to. It will only shrink as stuff just, whether it gets used in a bad way, which then gets destroyed, whatever, right? It might get lost, but those things just go away and nothing else will ever get added to it.
Correct. Yeah.
So.
And then the second one is the HK MP5, and that guy is $59,500.
Yep.
So these are what are considered weapons of war.
That's correct.
And they're $60,000. So it's not like when people say, oh, weapons of war, that is what you should be thinking about, not an AR-15 semi-automatic.
Correct.
That is not a weapon of war.
That's
because military does not use these AR-15s.
That's right.
So that is absolutely untrue. Stop listening to the media. They don't know what they're talking about. And even the leader of the free world that is using these terms incorrectly.
Yep.
So
again,
absolutely.
he uses it to his agenda, and that's basically what they do. So,
Yes.
and unfortunately, we're sitting here, we have an agenda, right? Because our agenda is to fight for our right, fight for our Second Amendment right. And I'll be more than happy to have a nice conversation with whoever wants to have the conversation. If you give me some facts, I'll listen to them.
Absolutely.
And I'm more than happy to. And if you can prove me wrong, please prove me wrong.
Right.
Right. And I can eat crow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And that's the thing, I know a lot of people will say, well, you guys are partial because it's your business and this is your livelihood. This isn't our first livelihood. We've done other things. We're very passionate about this because there's a lot of misinformation. Again, that stigma about guns. How I got into this industry.
Yeah.
I was definitely afraid of guns. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't grow up around them, and here we are, fighting for our rights to own them. But what I want to really kind of, pass along is that we're like, no bullshit. There's things that could probably be done to help out to reduce different things that are happening. But I feel like the lawmakers aren't coming to the gun shops, the gun owners, and saying, hey, let's talk about this and that and the other thing. What they're doing is they're going to victims, like they're going to the parents of these children that were just killed and going, what can we do? And of course they're like, ban guns. Their child were just murdered by some lunatic that used a gun. What are they going to do? It's like if their child was just ran over by a car and a drunk driver, then they'd become advocates for drunk driving, right?
Absolutely.
So what they need to be doing, lawmakers, is talking to people that are actually in the industry. So in talking about that whole raising the age to 21, now here in Florida, it already is 21. You have to be 21 in order to purchase any gun.
Right, they did that after a mass shooting, the Parkland shooting in Florida. Florida then changed everything to 21.
Correct.
So.
And although I feel like, okay.
Well, they also made a waiting period, right? So they did up the waiting period. So the waiting period is the same as it is for pistols in the state of Florida. So there is a waiting period, so you can't just buy it and leave with it.
Correct. And, in doing some research, 6 of the 9 deadliest active shooters in the United States were by people that were 21 or younger. So it makes sense that people would say, hey, 21, it makes good sense, and maybe you should be 21. So, and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe that's common sense. Maybe we should do that. But then I start doing more research. Well, you can pick your own gender.
At 4, right, Dems?
So if we're going to do 21 for the gun age, right, then why don't we do 21 for picking your own gender? Wouldn't that make sense?
And fighting for your country.
Fighting for your country.
If you can die and shoot a gun, then...
You can go to war.
Right. And use a weapon
18.
of war, then you should probably be 21.
Right. The age limit, the driving age limit for driving, right?
16.
It depends on the state, but yeah, it could be 16, 17, 18, right?
Yeah.
Then
So
maybe
that should be
people
21.
shouldn't be driving until they're 21, right? Because that's what you're saying, that their mental capacity, you're not capable of making these decisions or having something that could take somebody's life.
Because the reality is, driving a car, all you have to do is switch into the other lane real quick, and you're now going to kill a bunch of people.
Correct. And there's no limitations on what car you can buy when you're 21 or under.
That's right.
They're not going to say you can't get this Ferrari, you can't get this really fast car.
If you can pay for it and you can get it, you can get it.
Right. So why are there no limitations on that? So there's a lot of things that came up when I was doing this. Okay, good, common sense. Well, that statistic about how many active shooters were under 21. I was thinking, oh, well, maybe that's okay. But then I think about this other stuff and I go, wait a minute.
Right.
If you're saying that they're not mature enough to do this, then you got to keep it consistent. So what is the age of adulthood? Is it 21 or is it 18?
Yeah.
Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, this person is mature enough to not own a gun, but this person is mature enough to go into war.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
So it just has to be across the board, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's,
and again,
let's talk about
usually
that.
there's no logic or accountability, unfortunately, when Democrats are talking about these numbers and talking about this stuff. There's just, it's bad, and you need to get rid of it.
It's a knee-jerk reaction, yeah. And the other thing is too, common sense gun reform or whatever they want to call it. When they pulled the bump stocks, right? So they knee-jerk reaction to Vegas. The Vegas shooting was banning bump stocks. And I thought to myself, why would they ban a bump stock? They didn't ban full auto, right? They regulated it.
Right.
So why wouldn't you just regulate those? And you can make a $200 tax stamp. So the government would make $200 for every single bump stock. You'd have the registry, basically, that you're on.
Yep.
And they'd go through a very stringent background check by the FBI.
Fingerprinted, photographed, whole deal.
Ban something, right? Regulate it. So I just don't understand why. This is common sense, right?
Yeah.
So instead of calling for bans, why don't we regulate it? Okay, well now, of course I don't want that, AR-15s to be regulated, but it would be a better step than banning them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe people wouldn't have a problem paying $200 tax stamp versus ban.
Yeah, we would.
Versus ban?
Well, if I have it.
If you have to choose.
Well, if I have it, I already have it. So the ban just means there's no more sale of it.
Right.
So if I already have it, I already have it.
Right, but a new person that wants to get an AR-15.
Well, I get it.
Instead of not being able to have it, wouldn't it be better to have it? I'm just saying, I don't want it. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we're on the list. I mean, we own gun shops, so we're already on the list, and we already own NFA items, so we're on the list. So they're coming to our house, but nonetheless.
Right.
So.
It's just, where does it end, right? Yeah. So they talk about common sense stuff, and it really does need to be common sense, because what they talk about is not common sense at all.
Nope.
And I wish that they'd come to people like us and people in the industry instead of blackballing people. I mean, I know the Daniel Defense Company is family owned. They're the ones that made the rifle, which this lunatic used in this most recent shooting. And they're blaming, of course, the gun manufacturer, who I'm sure is devastated by this. We talk about it all the time. If we ever sold somebody a firearm that used it in a crime that, like this, we would be devastated. I mean, it's just the most horrible thing I could even think of. So for the media and for, them to start blaming Daniel Defense
it's
is
crazy.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. So again, we have to place blame where blame should be, and that is with the person that did this, not the tool that was used. Because he could have just built a bomb and blew up the school. He could have done a
Knives,
whole
whatever.
bunch of things.
Take your pick.
You just got to blame the person. I mean,
Sure.
I'm just saying. Then they're talking about magazine capacity. So he's Dum was talking about it last night, and he's talking about high capacity magazines. Well, you know, you're talking about magazines, but let's just say you have a 10 round max. So a 10 round max for this guy would be okay,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Or a 10 round, you know, for one of these other ones.
308,
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
Right.
what you're again, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense what you're saying.
It's a magazine. It doesn't take very long. I can carry a whole bunch of these.
I mean,
So
you
all I
can
have to do
quick
is reload. I
change-
can reload very, very, very fast.
Absolutely.
So just because there's 10 rounds in it instead of 30, it's not going to really make any difference at all.
It could
Especially
be-
when it takes an hour and 15 minutes to go in.
Right. That is one of the main things that clearly is the problem, right? Because they're going, well, good guys with guns didn't stop, you know, what
Right.
happened. Well, the good guys with guns didn't go in.
They sat out for an hour and 15 minutes before they went in. And even the Parkland shooting, the FBI had went and actually talked to this kid
Right. And didn't take his
once or
guns.
at least twice
Right. So
prior
talk
to this
about
happening.
red flag laws. They're talking about the red
Hello.
flag laws, right? So
Right.
they didn't go take that kid's guns.
Right.
Why?
Right. So again, so there was stuff in place and there was stuff that should have happened, but it didn't happen.
Right.
So don't blame it on the gun or that other shit. There was stuff in place and it shouldn't have happened, period. I mean, hell, this kid out in Texas, he asked his sister to go buy a gun. So she
Tried
already
to
knew
straw-
that he wanted
straw
to do
purchase.
something weird.
Right.
So why the hell didn't she say something?
Right.
So why don't you hold her accountable?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there were so many things that on all of these incidents that you can track back. Even rules that are in place right now are just not being followed. So maybe we use this energy and this money that we have to, you know, perfecting how law enforcement and other agencies can enforce the things that already are in place, right?
Yeah.
How to, you know, social media companies maybe should be reporting things. One of my friends got reported for saying something about our shooting club. Like she said something about a gun or something, and she was literally like cut off.
Yeah.
She private messaged me and said, I'm in Facebook jail because I said this. And it was like basically just something about coming to the shooting club.
Yeah.
So she's blocked. But this active shooter guy who's talking about shooting up a school,
Yeah.
what
Not
happened
blocked.
there?
Yeah.
Nothing was blocked. Like, what
Yeah.
happened? Why wasn't that reported?
Right.
Like, I don't understand that.
So guess what?
What? It's time for the drawing?
We're almost out of time.
It's time for
I
the
know,
drawing?
and it's like, believe me, we're like, oh my God, are we going to be able to, you know, do we have enough time? Holy crap.
Yeah, 4 minutes is a long time, believe it or not.
It is a long time.
It is.
But we need to kind of start, you know,
Taking a breath, get worked up.
simmer down now.
We get worked up.
Oh, we both get worked up.
We do. Last night on the
very
way home
passionate.
from the movie, we were both
Very
really
passionate.
worked up listening to the speech that he was giving.
Yeah.
We talk about, you know, not having that gun registration that they're talking about,
Right.
because that's how like the whole Nazi takeover
That's
thing
right.
happened. It started.
Yep.
And basically, the registry is what Hitler used to that list to find his political opponents and Jewish people that owned guns and make them
Yep.
surrender or assassinated them.
Yep.
So we definitely don't want registered guns.
That's right.
Right? I mean, that's really, really bad.
And again, and all this stuff, there's so much that we can go into more in regards to, you know, how that movement, and I talk about the Nazi movement, how that happened, and how there's several similar things occurring currently with our Democratic Party.
Yeah. Really got
And I'm not calling them Nazis,
Right.
right? I'm not saying
Sure,
that.
of
But
course.
what I'm saying is that there's very similar things that are occurring
Yeah.
and that they're trying to make happen that are very similar to what they meaning the Nazis, did in order
Yeah.
to overthrow
Yeah.
or
Yes.
win their government.
Yeah.
So,
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
So remember to join the NRA. That's very important. They're fighting for our rights. And I know we didn't do like gun training or teach you anything about, you know, different kinds of guns and things like that today, but we felt that it was really, really important for us to touch on these items because Shad is really,
well, I'm just prepping. I'm just letting her talk. But, you know.
it's really important.
I know, and
It's
that's
very,
I haven't
very
said a
important.
word.
There were
I'm
a
just
lot of
sitting here waiting.
falsies that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Falsities.
Whatever.
And I know that there's people that we know personally that listen to the media a lot, and they go, "Oh my gosh, why do you sell those assault weapons? And why do you have to have an assault weapon?" And we're like,
"Hi, Mom."
What? So, don't listen to the media. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to pick the winner of the raffle.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
And the winner of the raffle, again, is going to get this beautiful AR.
And you're going to pick. I'm just making sure they're nice and all. And oh boy.
Oh boy.
We just lost one.
Oh, you got to get it.
Got to get it
under the table.
Excuse me. All right.
Very
no
excited.
looky.
Oh, okay.
Nope, you got to pick it.
Okay,
All right.
I'm taking my glasses off because I really can't see then. All right, here
Hand
we
in.
go.
Hand in. Pick it out. You pick it. And just one. Here we go.
Here it is.
Lucky winner is...
Here's the winner. I don't have my
who?
glasses
You don't have your
on.
glasses on? Oh, my glasses
Here
on
we
either.
go. I don't know what that says.
Oh, Lord.
John?
Javon Days. Javon Days.
Is that what it says?
Yes,
Javon Days.
Javon Days, you have won. And the number is, what's the number on the ticket?
The ticket number
Is
332125.
Javon
Bring your
Days.
ticket into the shop,
Yes.
and this AR-15 is yours. Of course, you have
Yes.
to pass a background check.
Correct. You're going to have to
Go through the
go
process.
through the process, but it is, I'm not going to say free. I mean, you did pay for it, but it's yours now.
No, he didn't pay for it. $10.
Well, I don't know how many tickets he bought, but nonetheless, he paid something for it.
All right, so Javon Days.
That's right.
Again, ticket number 332125. You are the winner.
Congrats, dude.
Congrats.
Yes.
Somebody will reach out to you if
If you're not watching this.
you're not watching this, but you should watch because
Yep.
this is where we're drawing it.
Yep, so you should hear from us today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, we are taping this, so it could be
Well, it's
today or
today,
tomorrow.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's airing at 6 o'clock, but we're taping a little earlier, but nonetheless.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for watching.
betcha.
Join us every Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. Please like, share, and subscribe on social media and send this to all your friends.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.